Hello everybody, you have tuned in to Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I cover virtually any aspect of making a murderer. I go over the evidence, the documents, the photos. So if you like, stay tuned, and in the future I'll have many more videos besides the one you're about to see. Hello everybody, we're back. One more today. Today this video, we're gonna go ahead and talk about Mr. Christopher Palenik, PhD. He works for Microtrace, the labs that tested the .22 caliber slug, which was found in the garage over underneath the compressor. So we're going to hear from this gentleman here today, as I said, Christopher Palenik, and we're going to find out what he has to say about after examining the bullet. It's pretty interesting here what they do, and he basically definitively proves that that bullet, if it went through any bone, it should have bone particles left in it still. So we're going to go ahead and show you right now, just like we did with the last two experts. Why on earth should we be listening to Christopher Palenik? Why is Christopher Palenik so uniquely qualified for this particular task, right? Okay, well, we're going to show you right now where he's going to tell you what his background and what Microtrace's background is right here. Microtrace LLC was founded in 1992 and specializes in the characterization and identification of minute amounts of unknown substances and single small particles through a combination of disciplines that span chemistry, geology, biology, and materials science. Microtrace staff have contributed to a variety of high-profile cases, including the Unabomber, Swiss air crash, Narita airport bombing in Tokyo, Air India bombing, Oklahoma City bombing, the Green River murders, which would be Gary Ridgway, JonBenet Ramsey case, Atlanta child murders, Ivan the Terrible war crimes trial, Jerusalem, and the kidnapping and murder of DEA special agent Kiki Cameron in Mexico. Microtrace staff have conducted analysis and reviews of scientific findings in numerous cases involving trace evidence and have testified for both the prosecution and defense. Our staff have in addition performed U.S. National Institute of Justice funded research and published articles and book chapters on various aspects of microscopic trace evidence. The Microtrace laboratory conforms to the same international quality standard adhered to by forensic laboratories around the world. Our laboratory, Microtrace LLC, has been retained by counsel for Stephen Avery to perform microanalysis on certain items of evidence that were admitted to Mr. Avery's trial, State of Wisconsin versus Stephen Avery. I have prepared this affidavit as senior research microscopist at Microtrace. I received my MS and PhD in geology from the University of Michigan. I took a postdoctoral fellowship in the Federal Bureau of Investigation Forensic Science Research Unit. I have published extensively in the field of research microscopy. My professional appointments have included chemistry, instrumental analysis, scientific area committees, materials trace subcommittee within the organization of scientific area committees, sponsored by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, North Carolina Forensic Science Advisory Board member appointed by the Attorney General of North Carolina, Scientific Working Group for the Analysis of Geological Materials, UNESCO International Union of Geological Services, Initiative in Forensic Geological Trace Evidence Advisor. A copy of my CV is attached in the affidavit as Exhibit A. Okay, so there we see that Mr. Palenik and Microtrace Labs are no joke. They are fully, respected, and they adhere to all the, normal protocols that any other lab and stuff would adhere to. And so that's, his background right there. He's, very, very knowledgeable about this sort of thing. Now, what we're going to go into now is where they basically talk about how they go about detecting what is on a bullet. and they can use this microscopy and this radio frequency stuff and these various like microscopes and stuff to detect what's on the surface of the bullet and stuff like that. So what they're going to do is run these first they're going to have 4 bullets that they shoot through bone. These are going to be called the exemplar bullets, and you're going to see what happens when they detect those and find what's on those and see the bone on those or whatever. And then they put it through those 4 bullets through a simulation of doing a DNA test. So they put it in the solution for a DNA test, and they shake the test tubes up or whatever to just to mimic that, because that had happened to evidence item #FL, which is the slug that was found on the garage floor next to the compressor. And so they did that, and then when they looked at them again, they all still had bone there. So the solution to pull the DNA off of FL would not have removed any bone fragments that were still stuck in the lead. So this is how they go on to determine that bullet FL was not ever fired through any sort of bone. So that's basically what this one's about here. So we'll go ahead and get right to it. On the 23rd of May 2017, a bullet was hand carried to Microtrace by Special Agent Jeff Weiss of the Wisconsin Department of Justice. The bullet remained in custody of Special Agent Weiss during the analysis performed at Microtrace. The bullet was opened, photo documented, and examined using a combination of stereo microscopy and digital video microscopy. This examination revealed that the bullet surface was covered in debris, exhibiting the following characteristics. A waxy substance covers a significant portion, 40%, of the leading surface of the bullet. This material may be related to the waxes used by a firearms analyst to orient and hold bullets during their analysis. Further analysis of the waxy material could clarify this point. Numerous fine red flakes are on and embedded in the waxy substance. Numerous fibers are observed adhering to the waxy substance. Most of these are colorless, however, red and black fiber fragments were also noted. Other white fibers not associated with the waxy substance were observed in association with the bullet. These fibers could be more specifically identified after isolation and further analysis. Numerous wood fragments are present in or on or under the waxy substance. Further analysis could elucidate that their specific relationship to the waxy substance. Other wood fragments appear to be directly adhering to or embedded in the lead of the bullet. This latter observation suggests that at least some of the wood was deposited when the energized bullet encountered a wooden object. Some of the fragments observed are individual particles of wood. One particle appears to be an agglomeration of woody fragments, possibly originating from a manufactured wood product such as a chip or particle board. Also, isolation and analysis of these particles would be required if their specific identity, species, type of wood product is of interest. A rounded red droplet adjacent to a smaller red droplet is present on one side of the bullet. The identity of this dried liquid is presently unknown. Based upon its color and the fact that the bullet was previously extracted for DNA, it seems unlikely that this is blood. The color, texture, and shape of the deposit suggests that the material may be paint. Regardless of its identity, the texture of the bullet in the area where the droplets are observed strongly suggests that the droplet was deposited after the bullet was fired and came to rest. This material could be identified if subjected to further analysis. No particles consistent with bone were detected by an examination using stereo microscopy or digital video microscopy. Note that the criteria for classification each material described above is based upon in situ observations and are not necessarily inclusive of all particle types that may be present. A more thorough examination would require the physical isolation of the debris for a more detailed analysis. The sample was examined without any further preparation in a JEOL 7100 FT field emission scanning electron microscope with a 50 millimeter squared Oxford thing. The base of the bullet was fixed upon a piece of conductive double-sided carbon tape. An image of the bullet was obtained at 20 kV. The sample was examined by a combination of backscatter and secondary electron imaging at magnifications ranging from 50 times to 2,000 times. Elemental maps were collected from various areas on the leading surface of the bullet that showed surfaces with exposed lead away from the waxy deposit. The elemental maps were examined for areas with elevated levels of calcium and phosphorus. Each area analyzed was rotated towards the EDS detector to increase the number of X-rays detected. No areas with elevated levels of calcium levels of calcium and phosphorus were detected, indicating the absence of detectable bone. A few silicon-rich areas were noted, which may suggest the presence of silicate compounds, such as minerals. No particles consistent with bone were detected by SEM or EDS analysis. Following the analysis, the bullet was repackaged, sealed, and retained by Special Agent Weish. Conclusion. Based upon our analysis, there is no evidence to indicate that the bullet passed through bone. In fact, the particulate evidence that is presently strongly suggests an alternate hypothesis, which is that the trajectory of the fired bullet took it into a wooden object, possibly a manufactured wooden product. Furthermore, the presence of red droplets deposited on the bullet suggests that the bullet had picked up additional contamination from its environment at some point after coming to rest. Based upon these findings, it is our understanding that an investigator was sent by the Zellner Law Office to the Avery Garage to review the area for possible sources of particulate types described above. It is our understanding that the following possible sources were identified. Particle board in the garage with apparent bullet holes, red painted surfaces including a ladder in the garage, and a red painted ceiling. Each of the above listed materials observed on the bullet could be identified specifically if their actual identity is of importance to the investigation. This may provide further constraints or refinement to the hypothesis I have advanced. To facilitate this, specimens would need to be isolated from the bullet and analyzed individually. Isolation and analysis could be conducted using only a small portion of the material available. The potential sources for the particulate matter that were recently collected from the Avery Garage could be directly compared to materials on the bullet. Further affiant saith not. Christopher Palenik, Ph.D. So there we have it. The expert Christopher Palenik of Microtrace has basically let us know there is no bone anywhere in that bullet, and there should be. If it went through bone, there should be bone. And they proved that because, like I said, they did a test with 4 different bullets that they shot through bone, and they looked at them, and there was bone present in the slugs. They did a DNA, like they washed them for DNA, like simulated that. Then looked at them again, and the bone was still there. So it should have there. If it was there for those 4 bullets on the test bullets, it would be there for bullet FL at this point in time. And the reason why they did that is because obviously bullet FL went through a DNA wash back in the day when Sherry Culhane tested it and used it up so that she could definitively put Teresa somewhere on the property besides the RAV4. So that's it. So we have his expert opinion at this point now, along with the lab where he works, Microtrace, that there is no trace of bone whatsoever in that bullet, and it's actually more probable that what happened, that bullet probably came through, maybe even through the roof or through one of the side walls of the garage or something, and like just putzed right there by that air compressor, underneath the air compressor. Lucky it didn't hit the air compressor, but anyway. So that's what this expert's there to testify and tell us, that there's no way in heck that this bullet ever went through or touched any kind of bone, just wood and paint. So anyways, that's it, folks. See you later. Have a nice day, and if you haven't already, please hit subscribe.